now here is where we begin. Welcome to the Financial Education Week. And as you know, I'm Abhishek Sinha, and I'll be taking you through risk management for retailers. So what will you understand in this session? At the end of the session, you should be able to define risk. Then you should be able to gauge your risk appetite. You should be able to say how much risk you can take. And finally, you should be able to manage your risk. So these are the three basic things that you should be able to do after this session. So I'll start by defining risk. Before defining risk, let's understand what is this investment game all about. First of all, you have to understand investment is a source of revenue for you, and so you have to behave like a businessman when you are investing money. In other words, you have to first and foremost understand that your investment is different from you. You have to let your investment grow. You have to save money, and so that the investment can absorb risk when there is a problem. And your returns from assets are a function of future events. So investment is a source of revenue. This revenue you are generating by investing in assets. For example, the assets that you can invest in are equity shares. They can also be loan. You can be giving someone loan that can become an asset for you. You might be investing in commodity futures. You might be investing in foreign exchange. So anywhere where you are investing, and the asset is an investment asset, looking at a future event from which you will get the returns. For example, shares. What are we looking at when we are looking at a share? Let's say Tata Steel share. I'm looking at how Tata Steel will perform when I want to sell the share. Let's say after 6 months, I want to sell the share. Will this price of the shares go up or will the price of the shares go down? So when I'm trying to predict that, I'm capturing all these future events in today's price. So this is the exercise I am doing. Then again, as I just told you, I'm capturing future events. You should understand one thing, that future events are unpredictable. Future is always unpredictable. You cannot really predict what is going to happen in the future. What does this mean? This means that something like coronavirus cannot be predicted. We can keep blaming China for not having informed on time. We can blame US for not reacting properly. But all these are future events which are outliers, which do not happen on a continuous basis. So people will not be equipped to face it. So future is always unpredictable. A predictable loss is not risk. If I know I'm entering into a business which will make loss, then I'm not taking risk. It's just mere foolishness. Entering into a business which will make loss or buying a share of a company which I know will make loss is not risk. This is the first thing you have to understand about risk. Risk is not predictable loss. It is uncertainty of profit. What I mean is, we just calculated the standard deviation. If you have seen, we have just calculated the standard deviation of the profits. So that change in standard deviation is what I am calling uncertainty. And this is what the standard deviation that we calculated for Asian Paints shares, and we found it to be 7%. That is the risk, the volatility. There are going to be a lot of statistical measures. Here we are not really looking at the statistical measures. What we are trying to understand is, what I am going to harp on is, risk is all about uncertainty. And before I go further, I would like to tell you that the uncertainty that I'm talking about is basically quantifiable uncertainty. I'm talking about that part of uncertainty that can be quantified. For example, if standard deviation of the profit is 7%, it is a quantifiable part. It is expressed in number. So what I want to tell you is risk is all about uncertainty and measurable uncertainty. There are going to be a lot of methods of measuring uncertainty. Yeah. So no one can predict the future. We can make educated guesses. This is very, very important. Impossible to predict the future. No one can for sure say what will happen tomorrow. Okay. But what are we all doing as analysts or academicians? We are trying to guess what the price will be in the future. And all these are educated guesses because they are based on a lot of research, and it's just not any number that comes to our mind. It is a structure that we give to our thought to come to the numbers. Still, it is just an educated guess. So risk cannot be eliminated. Uncertainty cannot be eliminated. No one can say that he is going to be 100% right. There are going to be chances when we will be wrong, and thus we need to manage risk. This is what I am going to talk about today. So first of all, what increases your risk? All of us are investing, right? There are different venues we are looking at, and we are investing. One thing we do is we are chasing the price instead of value. For example, I want to buy Asian Paints shares. I am just looking at its price. I am not looking at what is making the price move. For example, is Asian Paints coming up with new products? Is Asian Paints capturing new markets? Is Asian Paints revenue going to increase in the future? Asian Paints is uh, present in a lot of countries, around 73, 74 countries. Will Asian Paints now increase its presence in other countries? If so, what is the capital expenditure that will be involved? Or what is the assets that they will buy? What will be the cost of those assets? So there are a lot of questions that go into finding the value. So if you are just looking at the price without looking at the value, what you will be doing is generally buying the assets at a very high price, and you'll be generally selling it at a very low price. Why? Because anything that is going up, you want to buy it. By the time you decide to buy it, the price has already reached the peak, and you end up buying it at a very high value. Okay, so does anyone have a question here? Uh,
Good, Abhishek, so far.
all good? Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
good.
thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, so we are changing the price instead of value. This is what you have to understand. We cannot do this. Okay, then what many a times we do is we invest without understanding risk appetite. This again can be a problem. We many a times invest without knowing how much of risk can I absorb. All investments are not for everyone. For example, in US, there's a category of investments which is called junk bonds. They are bonds which are about to default. Now, what happens is these bonds have a very high interest rate, around 35%, 40% interest rate. But you don't know whether you will receive this 35% for how many months. Are you getting it? The company may default any day. So now you have to understand, do you have the appetite to take that risk? Again, private equity. You look at all the private equity investments in India, and you will realize there are very few of them which are making money. Most of them are not making money. We are using different metrics to justify. For example, some people are talking about gross profit margin. Some people are talking about operating profit margin. But what am I interested in? I am interested in, as an investor, is what return will come to me. Until and unless there's no net profit, I will not get any returns. So basically, you have to understand that different investments have different risk appetite. And again, many a times private equity investors are also looking at the change in the price. So if they want to sell the share, at what price can they sell it, and how much money can they make out of it? So what is the exit route they have? So every investment you see will have some kind of understanding like that. Now I'll tell you, I have a friend who deals in derivatives. I asked him, why do you deal in derivatives? And he deals in some of the most exotic and risky derivatives. I asked him, why do you do that? And his answer is, because I've seen my friends doing it. Now, if you do what your friends do, and if it suits your friend and if it doesn't suit you, who is going to lose at the end of the day is the question. Your risk appetite is what you have to understand. Can I take this risk? I have obligations. I have to take care of my loans. So if I take a risk, I will not be able to pay my loan, for example. Then again, letting behavioral biases impact investing decisions. This is something very, very common in all the markets. I don't know if anyone of you have read this news. Amitabh Bachchan buys into shares of company X. I won't name the company, company X. And then you'll see the price of that share going up. Ratan Tata buys shares of this company, price of that share going up. Mr. Jhunjhunwala buys the this share and the price goes up. So what is happening here? Here, we are buying those company shares which someone else has bought and we think he's right. So this is known as herding mentality. We are not using our brain. We're just going where the herd is going. Where everyone is just following Amitabh Bachchan, I am also following Amitabh Bachchan. Okay, just a minute. It looks like there's a question. Just a sec. Yeah. Okay. So there is one question. I would like to take it before I go further. It's from Dr. Nagaraju, and he's asking, what way do we decide to invest in other countries in the current crisis? Still, some keeping continuing investments per se is Geo company case, pumping by Facebook and others. Okay, so what I would like to tell you is USA plans to delist some countries' origin informally known Chinese based in US. Okay, so if you are talking about risk, first of all, what uh, my experience about risk is, first you understand about your risk appetite before you look at where you can invest. Okay, this is what I was trying to say. Now, Facebook investing in Geo is not to see the asset prices going up and selling the shares. They are not trying to make profit from sale of shares of Reliance Industries. The reason why they have invested in Reliance Industries is different. It's a strategic investment. That is, they are trying to enter India, and they know in India there is a boom when it comes, there's a boom in internet telephony. That is the reason why they are investing. So that's the reason why they are investing in India. So what you have to understand before we get into risk and return is, uh, you just have to keep away from all the noises. We get into a lot of noises and we pay a lot of attention to these noises and we lose our way. Risk and return is all about step one, chasing value instead of price. Secondly, understanding your own risk appetite. Secondly, not being impacted by the behavioral biases. I'll give you an example of one more behavioral bias. Now, there's something called loss aversion. We all hate loss. So what happens when we are making losses? When we are making losses, our ability to take risk increases. We take more risk without understanding. Secondly, uh, okay, so we take more risk than we would have otherwise taken. And for example, let's just take the case of what happened when betting was going on in Mahabharat, when they were gambling. They were earning a certain amount of loss. When they were in loss, they tried to reduce their loss by taking a higher level of risk, hoping that they will earn more profit. So this is one syndrome that I've seen in the market. When a person starts making loss, he increases his investment by taking loan. And when he does that, his leverage increases, that is his loan increases, and his ability to pay the loan in the long run might be low. So if the losses increase, he's in a catch-22 situation. He doesn't know what to do. Then again, we always think from short-term perspective. This is known as saliency feature. I'll just give you an example. Today, if you talk to anyone, he's only talking about COVID-19. He's not talking about anything else. Now, let's say after 10 years, what do you think? Would the world have found a way to deal with COVID? If yes, the investments that you have, will it yield return in 10 years? So now, what is your, when are you looking for return? Are you looking for return today, or are you looking for return 10 years from now? If you're looking for returns 10 years from now, can you hold your investment for those 10 years? Is a question that you will have to understand, that you will have to answer. So these are the behavioral biases that exist in investment. And let me tell you one thing, even the analyst who's looking at the stocks, he has his behavioral bias. For example, the maximum number of stocks that an analyst can cover in his life would be 30. Because he has 30 stocks to cover, and if he writes anything negative about a company, the company will not give him information. Then there would be no problems for the company. Okay. Now, let's understand about lack of understanding of assets where you invest. This is something very common. In a investment analysis class, if I ask how many students invest, I would get an answer of, let's say, 30 out of 60 invest. Then the next question I ask is, okay, where do you invest? And they'll tell Tata Motors or Tata Steel or HCL or Asian Paints. And then I'll tell them, tell me 5 things about these companies, and none of them are able to tell anything about the company. So what are they doing? They're doing what I've told you not to do. They're chasing the price instead of value. Okay. So is it clear till now? Guys, those who are there?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
I continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richa ma'am, any questions? I'll just unmute you.
No, sir. It is fine.
Govind, any questions?
No.
All good? Okay. I'll just continue. Yeah. Karthikeyan, fine?
Good, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, lack of understanding of assets where you invest is again a big problem. So, and then now I'm going to talk about some truths about risk. Risk is a function of predictability. Higher the predictability, lower the risk. This is what you have to understand. If you are investing somewhere where there is higher predictability, there you will have lower risk. What do I mean by this? I simply mean that people like predictability and they don't like volatility. Okay. So they generally like to invest at the place where there's predictable. But if the returns are predictable, the expected returns will be slightly lower. That is also one problem. When you take a higher risk, expected risk, you get a higher return. So volatility is the point at which we start, and this is what we look at. Let me explain you what are the things we look at. The first measure that we look at is standard deviation. Now, standard deviation is a very simple measure of risk. I take all the prices. From the
It
prices,
takes time for Ganeshan.
yes, sir.
No, sorry.
Yeah. From the
Okay.
standard deviation, I can calculate. From the prices, I can calculate standard deviation using the uh, statistical tool, my Excel, and I'll get the value. Okay. Then this standard deviation tells me how much of volatility is in my return. So let's say I am predicting a 10% profit. If I get a 15% profit or a minus 15% profit, I treat it as unpredictability. As I treat it as inconsistency in my predictability. So that can be measured by standard deviation. Then there's one more measure of standard deviation, which is a very simple measure. I take the standard deviation, I divide it by mean, and what I get is known as as coefficient of variation. Here, there are two characters in this movie. One character is standard deviation, the other character is mean. Out of the two characters, standard deviation is a character that we generally do not like, and mean is the character who is the good character, or the return. We want the return to be higher, we want the risk to be lower. So wherever the coefficient of variation is going to be low, that is standard deviation is going to be low compared to the expected return, I am going to invest there. Then there are other methods like beta. Now beta is measure of systematic risk. Let me not get too much into it now. Let me just tell you that every stock, I can look at how is it moving compared to the Sensex. I look at the co-movement of the stock, and based on the co-movement of the stock, I calculate something called beta, which is a measure of systematic risk. Okay. Now, these measures that I've talked about, you don't need to understand them in toto as of now. The only thing you need to understand about them is they are going to give you one value, and they are going to tell you that this value is right. There is nothing more to it. They are going to tell you standard deviation is 10%, means it's 10%. Now, we are living in uncertain times. Let's say the last 2-3 years, if you have seen, you would have seen that there has been a lot of change in the standard deviations, in the coefficient of variation. If I take the standard deviation for, let's say, 2019 for a stock and 2018 for a stock, I can ensure you it's not going to be the same. So where is the predictability in risk then? So in that case, what should you do? You have to, as a person who wants to save your back or reduce your risk, what you can do is you can look at something called scenario planning and sensitivity analysis. This is the in thing. Okay. So what we do in scenario planning and sensitivity analysis is very simple. We do a simulation. What we do is, you can use a random function. It's a very simple stuff. You can use random function and you can easily calculate what are the different values possible if I have a range, and then find the average of that value. Sensitivity analysis is more about you taking, let's say, if there's a good time, if there's a bad time, if there's an average period, how is my returns going to be? So if anyone is interested, you could just drop me a mail. I can send you a scenario planning and a sensitivity analysis Excel, which you can use for your purposes. Then there's something called value at risk and conditional value at risk. So I'll just tell you in a very simple language, how to interpret it. What we are going to do is, in value at risk is, we are going to look at a confidence level of predictability. We are going to first decide what is the confidence level, and then we'll decide how much is the maximum loss possible. So I'll say I'm 95% confident that I'm not going to make more than a loss of 1 lakh. So that is VAR for you. In VAR, what am I doing? I'm deciding a value, let's say 95% confidence level. I am going to be 95% confident that I'm not going to lose more than X amount. And then you're going to have something like conditional VAR, Now, conditional where is just understanding the area more than area better. I'm not going to get into the details of it. You should know these words and you should look for these values if available. If you want to calculate them, I can send you Excel sheets which can help you calculate it. Okay. One thing that is very important is risk requires diversification from your main source of income. Now, someone has been a lot of people ask me, Abhishek, you think you're very good at investment, but I've never seen you put your money into investment. Why don't you put your money in where your mouth is? The answer is very simple: diversification. I am not going to look at the same area where I am. For example, my revenue comes from valuation. Valuation necessarily means how the equity market is moving. If the equity market is doing well, then there'll be a demand for valuation and valuation experts. If I'm investing my money in equity markets, then what will happen? My main source of income is all in equity markets. Are you getting it? So if the markets come down, I will be impacted doubly. My main source of income might also be impacted, plus my investments will also be impacted. So I need to understand my main source of income and invest accordingly. Okay. If I invest where I shouldn't invest, so there are two examples here that I've taken. An equity analyst investing in stock markets only. If an equity analyst invests only in stock market, then what will happen? Definitely, he is increasing his risk. A banker investing in fixed income instrument again is increasing his risk, because a banker's salary to a great extent depends on whether people will pay their debt on time. Similarly, fixed income instrument also depends on whether people will pay the interest on time. So I can't invest all my resources on the same kind of instrument. Okay. Steps involved in managing risk. First thing is understand your risk appetite. There are two steps to understanding your risk appetite. Financial ability to absorb risk. Are you in a position to absorb risk? A lot of people, they take loan and then they are going to invest. Now, I don't think that is the right thing to do. Why? Because then you do not have the financial ability to absorb risk in a volatile market. Most of the markets are highly volatile now. The revenues don't seem to be increasing. The prices of the stocks are already very high. The price earning ratios are quite high on an average everywhere. Even after coming down the price earning ratio, the forward PE looks very high to me. So financial ability to absorb your risk is what you need to understand. Then your behavioral attitude towards risk. All of us are born different. For example, I am someone who does not like taking risk. So even if I have the financial ability to absorb risk, I should not take risk, because then I will not be able to take the stress and strains that come with taking risk. So my behavioral attitude towards risk is also very important. Then building a portfolio based on your risk appetite. Now this is something very interesting. A lot of us do not understand that every portfolio cannot be risk averse. Every portfolio will have different risk, and I don't understand the way the market generally defines risk. For example, everyone says that fixed income instruments are less risky, but I have a question here. Okay, so in fixed income instruments, where is your investment going? If you look at it, your money is going in providing debts to companies which did not get money from the bank. Let's say the bank is giving a loan of 8% and a rate of 8%. Someone is borrowing from the fixed income market at 10%. Okay. So if someone is borrowing at 10% instead of 8% from you, why is he doing that? Because he's not getting the money from the market. Why is the bank not giving him money? Because the bank is not sure that he'll be able to repay. So in that case, if someone is taking money from you and that is an unsecured loan, what is the probability that you will get that money back? Very difficult if things don't run the way you would want to. Okay. So you need to understand the instrument. Don't go by what market tells. Just go. This is what I do generally. I look at the cash flow. Where is the cash flow in this investment that I'm making? And then once I've understood the cash flow, the next thing is what is the predictability of the cash flow? Will the cash flow increase for sure or will it decrease for sure? I try and understand that. Once I have an understanding of that, then I grade the instrument as risky, less risky, and then I, based on my risk appetite, I invest. One more thing is, please understand that risk is not a stationary phenomena. It is a dynamic phenomena. It keeps changing. The amount of risk that you had in 2020 and the amount of risk you have in 2019 may not be the same. Okay, even if you are changing your if you are not changing your portfolio, with the same portfolio also the risk levels can be different. And once you have measured the risk periodically, managing your risk, try to understand why has the risk changed. Why is my equity market looking risky all of a sudden? Is this risk a short-term phenomena, increase in risk a short-term phenomena or long-term phenomena? And then you need to take adequate steps. There are 4 ways of managing your risk. You can avoid taking that risk. That is the simplest way. If you don't understand an instrument, if you don't understand the risk involved in that instrument, my advice to you is avoid taking that risk. The next thing you can do is mitigate or reduce the risk. This can be done through using derivatives instruments. So instruments like derivatives help you reduce risk. You can hedge your position to mitigate risk. Then you can absorb the risk. You can decide, no, man, I'm going to take 100% risk. If I make a loss, I make a loss. That loss is not big enough to impact me. I have a saving of 50 lakhs. I am investing 5 lakhs. If I lose 5 lakhs, nothing happens to me. I am financially in a position to absorb that risk. And I'm also psychologically ready for that kind of loss. Or you can transfer the risk to a third party. For example, insurance is an example of transferring of risk. Mantras for effective risk management. Don't invest in instruments you don't understand. This is something I'll keep harping on. This is the biggest problem with the market. We are trying to make money. We invest in what we don't understand. We make a loss and then we blame the instrument. Why will someone not fool you if you are ready to be fooled? To analyze the future, look at probable scenarios. When you're looking at, when you're trying to analyze the future, always look at probable scenarios and try to understand what is the future scenario going to be like. Is your risk going to change in the future scenario? Is your expected return going to change in future scenario? Always have a plan B. For example, if you have been reading news, you would have realized that a lot of people have removed the money from the share market and they have kept it in the banks. Why have they done that? Because the future earning capacity of the companies are not clear now. You don't know how much the companies will earn in the future, let's say in the next 6 months to 1 year, and how many of them will become insolvent in that period. So I just don't want to invest in stock market. So for a short period, I've taken out all the money from the stock market and I've invested in I've kept it in separately. Again, don't invest everything you have. You should have a cushion. You should be ready to park your money if required in some interesting avenues if it comes. Don't be more than 80% invested. Let 20% be idle. There's no problem, especially in a volatile market. then leverage positions are always more risky. Don't invest in positions where you have to borrow money. Borrowing money and investing is not the best way of investing. It is definitely going to increase your losses. Risk management is again not about avoiding losses. It is about reducing unpredictability. It's not that I will not make any losses if I am into risk management. What will happen? I'll be able to reduce my unpredictability. In other words, I will be more or less certain of what I will earn. Risk management is about reducing uncertainty in your earnings. It is not about increasing your profits. This is very important to understand. So this is what I have. Now I'm unmuting all of you. If anyone wants, can ask questions.